Hi everyone. As Heidi said, my name is Becky Marval and I'm an occupational therapist, and I usually wear a few hats at once, but the main role that I'll speak to today is my work with Mobile Outreach Street Health, or MOSH, and in that job I'm the only OT, and I work with nurses and physicians to do street outreach and work with folks who are homeless or street involved, and look at more of their kind of functional quality of life needs and that sort of thing. So this picture here is actually taken in one of the gardens in Spain where they're doing some community development work, and what they did was transformed one of the kind of neglected areas at the University of Vic there, and one of the OT professors had invited some folks with chronic mental health issues to come and be a part of the garden and work there, and so they've transformed it into a nice tranquil garden for the students to use. So it was a nice example of getting people engaged actively. My path into this area of interest, I graduated here in 2007 and did some pretty typical work to begin with at the rehab center, doing inpatient work, and then moved a little bit more into the community, doing acquired brain injury outreach, working with folks in their own homes and communities, and then as well at the same time working with MOSH for the past 3 years. And just in all of those jobs, it's occurred to me how important it is to have a look at the bigger picture beyond the person in front of you. And as I'm sure Heidi's already spoken to you about the different levels that you can really work on in community development, I have the privilege of being able to do it as part of my job. It's actually part of my mandate to look at community development. But even if that isn't part of your mandate, there's always opportunities to kind of point your direction in that way and look for ways to go beyond just what is the issue you see in front of you. Okay, so this is a little bit more information about MOSH, and so it's been around since 2009, and it runs 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and it's a mobile service. We have a van that you can see here that's retrofitted, and we work with many community partners. It's actually an accomplishment of the community who came together saying that this was a gap, that folks who were street involved were not accessing primary health care, and they either had, very limited to no access or were using emergency care only, and so that's where this came about. Some of the principles that we really focus on are harm reduction and being consistent at a relationship-based care level. What that means is, whether it's nursing or myself as an occupational therapist, we believe that sticking with people over time and being there consistently for them to work on whatever is important in that moment will lead to future gains, and that it's important to not fragment services so much that you lose the relationship, and in the relationship you often lose the outcomes or the progress that you might otherwise make. We're very flexible. There's a lot of outreach components, so we're going where people are living or spending their time and seeking them out, and as well there's opportunities to drop in to see us and then by appointment. And the website there will provide more information. So how does occupational activism and community development fit? I thought I would just kind of give you my thoughts on that broadly before we go into occupational activism a little bit more. So I see the concepts as being certainly related and somewhat overlapping, and so just keep that in mind as well. What I see is that occupational injustice, or where we see occupational rights being infringed upon, those are often catalysts for both occupational activism or community development, or occupational activist as a strategy within community development. I really see the things overlapping quite a bit, and this doesn't come from a book. This is coming from my perception, just from my practical experience, so I'm happy to discuss other thoughts or other perspectives, and Heidi may have some too, but this is a little bit of how I see it happening. And as well, I've learned and come to realize that it, just as occupational injustice can trigger us in using occupational activism or community development, what we do as community developers or as occupational activists can also have a negative effect on the community, and so it can also cause injustice or impinge on people's rights. So we have to be very careful and very thoughtful whatever we're working in a community, because they're often very diverse, and what you do with one group in the community may work well for them but may have consequences for other groups in that community. So I just wanted to ask you what you think activism is, just the popular notion of that. Any thoughts? And I can speak them back into the mic, I guess. I don't need a super technical answer. When you hear the word activist, what do you think? Never heard the word before, huh? That's surprising. Do you think of any people? Like, what images come to mind? Who do you think of as an activist in the world? Never heard.